Today's topic is a brief introduction to the new chapter 229, Selective Clearing and Grubbing Design. Landscape architects and engineers should definitely read through the new chapter, as this webinar is just a broad overview of the chapter. Chapter 229 was created and expanded on from information in 323, Selective Clearing and Grubbing Plans. This new chapter provides more information for the designer on the department's expectations when selective clearing and grubbing or relocating trees and palms. Also make sure you are familiar with Standard Specification 110, Selective Clearing and Grubbing, as the FDM and the specification correspond. We'll give a brief overview of the major changes to this chapter. Preservation of existing trees and palms is intended to improve beautification along Florida's transportation corridors. It's intended to preserve legacy vegetation or landscape materials previously installed with transportation funding, and also minimize adverse ecological impacts. So here you can see a new bridge was constructed at an interchange, and the decision was made to preserve the existing vegetation in the infield. It provides scale and context to the bridge, and also aesthetic, scenic, and ecological value. These trees could have been very easily cleared and grubbed to make way for the bridge, but decisions were made and steps were taken throughout design and construction to preserve them. Selective clearing and grubbing includes the removal of undesirable vegetation. It includes areas of plant preservation and may also include tree protection fencing. Trees and palms along transportation corridors should be properly preserved and should not be unnecessarily removed. Consideration should be given to existing desirable trees and palms that are healthy and structurally sound. So here's an example from I-95 and State Road 76 where the sea grape was removed selectively in preparation for installation of landscape material. You can see at the top of this slope some of the original palms have remained in place. So here's the before and the after. Selective clearing and grubbing can remove undesirable vegetation while preserving existing desirable vegetation. It may also include branch pruning and mechanical or chemical vegetation control. In this instance, mature oaks and pines were selected to remain. They were pruned up and new landscape material was added. So here we have the before photo and the after. Here are before and after photos of I-95 and State Road 76 interchange, where the landscape architect specified selective clearing and grubbing to open up views to the water. Again, these trees could have been cleared or they could have remained overgrown, like shown on the left, but with selective thinning, the designer was able to keep the existing vegetation and open up views to the water. Tree protection is covered in section 229.1.2. Tree protection areas are considered selective clearing and grubbing areas, as the tree or palm being protected is selected to remain. Also make sure to familiarize yourself with Standard Index 110-100, Tree Protection and Preservation. Plant preservation areas are areas in which no standard clearing and grubbing activities, construction, or staging is to occur. Vegetation, including grasses, wildflowers, trees, and shrubs, and existing soils within these areas are to be protected from construction activities. Give special attention to preservation when there are previously protected, historically significant or large trees or palms on a site, when there are completed beautification or landscape projects in an area, when the project is a scenic corridor or a designated Florida Scenic Highway, when the corridor is adjacent to conservation lands, wetlands, or parks, when the vegetation provides a buffer between differing land uses. Selective clearing and grubbing is a tool designers can use to minimize adverse aesthetic and ecological impacts, particularly in roadway widening or new corridor construction. Because it is often more cost-effective to purchase new landscape material rather than relocate, it is important that the designer take careful consideration when deciding if relocation is a viable option. The designer should be intimately familiar with the upcoming new spec 581 Tree and Palm Relocation Specification, with both the construction and maintenance versions, as these speak to the limits of construction, payment terms, and post-installation period length. As relocating large trees is costly, the department does not want to relocate any trees over 16 inches in diameter. However, palms over 16 inches can be relocated. When relocating with a construction project, the final tree and palm location must be within the project limits. With a maintenance-let contract, there is more flexibility where the final tree and palm locations can be. However, on all projects, the final locations must be determined and shown on the plans. The post-installation period for maintenance projects is 1 year from the date of installation of material in its final location. The post-installation period for construction projects is 1 year or final acceptance, whichever comes first. Here's a project on the I-95 Expressway where we have 5 different types of palms that have been relocated from on-site. All of the palms shown here with tree bracing have been relocated. The feasibility and suitability of relocating trees or palms is based on multiple considerations, including the tree or palm condition, considering form, health, and structure, the size of the material, the species, conservation status, amenity value, suitability for relocating, environmental and cultural factors, cost, and risk. It is a major consideration in the design, documentation, implementation, and post-construction stages. Relocation may not be appropriate or justified on all projects. Again, careful consideration must be given to weigh the cost and benefit of relocation of existing material versus purchasing new nursery material. Most cases will not meet the criteria to justify a relocation project, and in those cases, not all trees and palms on a project will qualify for relocation. We've provided a flowchart in section 229.3.1 as a tool to assist in determining when to retain, relocate, or remove a tree or palm. The department only wants to relocate material that is able to be relocated if it can be accommodated in the plan, if it is cost effective, and if the plant species is not susceptible to disease, including Texas Phoenix palm decline. On a final note regarding scoping and project management of selective clearing and grubbing, you will find these tasks in the roadway section of the standard scope. Selective clearing and grubbing and associated tasks, such as analysis and tree disposition and cross-discipline coordination, are included with the roadway tasks, as this is often a task that needs to occur prior to roadway construction, as opposed to landscape projects, which often occur last and are often a standalone project. Look for these tasks in the roadway tabs 4 and 5, as it is a function of roadway, but accomplished by landscape architects. Thank you again, and here's my contact information if you have other questions.